given the sample that I've forgotten his name now, the new statistician used, given the sample that he claimed to have used, how does he even come, even if it's at ILO standard, how does he come to a percentage that is lower than last year when we were still better off financially? Does that make sense, Stanley?
Yeah, so what's happened was, the major thing that happened was the hours that were considered. That was what altered this report greatly. So the major shifts, most of the standards have been used across board from the last person that was the
yes, Yemi Kale. Yeah,
Kale, yes. And they just considered, so what they did was, before now, assuming they used 10,000 people, so I like to use definite figures, so you used 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using 10,000 people and they now use maybe 10,500 people, it's still similar. But the questions is the questionnaire that is on the questionnaire they ask. So they'll ask you, have you received any form of payment for work done in the past 7 days? And someone says yes. And they say, okay, so you received, how long did you work? And you say, I worked for 1 hour. And so it's a questionnaire, so that's sampling. And then they say, okay, how much were you paid? I was paid 1,500. That captures employed. So that captures employed for you. And it makes no sense that by the time you capture 1 hour of work as employed, on the surface, like what we're talking about, on the surface, because if you dig down to the reports, fair to the NBS, if you dig down to the reports, they were able to clearly state that people are working so and so jobs. This number of people, they have a large number of Nigerians that are doing jobs that are underemployed. But is the government going to look at the figure? When the government is reading out figures, I rarely hear the government say our underemployed figure is 50% or 60%. All you just hear the government says is that unemployment rate has dropped from 30% to 4.1%. And then they use it to brag. In statistics like this, it's very important that you are not political. You are as truthful to power as possible.
And speaking plain language.
Yes, and in as much as it's what could be, in quotes, could be obtainable elsewhere.
Yeah.
You don't judge melons with apples. Nigeria is in need of all the help that we can get. People are getting poorer, people are losing jobs. And now for you to have a statistics like this that reflects the opposite, even if it was according to a certain standard, standards are for people, people are not for standards.
Say that again. Standards are for people, people are not for standards. Correct. Yeah.
Yes. So now you are supposed to tailor your report to reflect the reality in your country so that you can help policymakers. Now, how many policymakers are going to drill down? Nigerians being superficial as they are, I'm very sure so many people have not read that report. All they just got was that figures are 4.1%. That's all. They don't want to read any other this thing. And if people are having conversations on board meetings and all, they're not going to come and dwell on, take the report and they be going side by side, line by line. They're just going to ask, what's the unemployment rate in Ghana? They say unemployment rate in Ghana is 7.1%, but they're under. How much is the unemployment rate in Nigeria next? They say Nigeria is 4.0. Oh, they are doing so well. Okay, move on. South Africa.
Yeah.
So we should intervene in South Africa and Ghana because they have a higher figure than what we do in Nigeria. And it is not fair to the youth of Nigeria.